Because picture your life if you didn't hold that belief. What would your life look like if you believed you could do anything? Okay, so limiting beliefs, just to explain what they are, they're those little voices in our head that keep telling us why we can't do something. So whenever you find yourself saying that I can't do it because I'm too young, or because I'm too old, or because I'm not rich enough, or I'm not clever enough, or strong enough, those are your limiting beliefs. And those beliefs actually form a pattern that is actually subconscious that you don't realize. So whenever you're faced with that situation, you automatically know, I can't do it. And you pull back. So the first step to conquering a limiting belief is to identify a limiting belief. Find those times where you're telling yourself you can't do something and why you can't do it. Understand where it's coming from. Often it'll be because of fear of failure. Or maybe somebody once said, oh, you're not very good at that, and it could be coming from a position of jealousy in their case. So you really have to question that. So you identify the belief, and then you start questioning it and saying, is this true all the time? Am I always bad at that? Or could I never do that? Because once we start to question it, we can also look at how valid it is. And in most cases, it's not valid because there's always a way of changing it. So change your viewing point of it, look at it from a different point of view. And when you're really battling with that, try the self-talk of talking to yourself as if you were talking to your best friend. So your best friend comes to you and said, I really can't do this. I can't go and start up a business because I'm just not capable enough. What would you answer that person? What would you point out? Firstly, you'd probably say, give them all the reasons why they could do it. And you would look at their strengths, look at the reasons why they could do it. And if there was something that was holding them back, how can I change it? Could I upskill myself? Could I have a mentor, do something different? So it's really about looking at the limiting belief, transforming it and saying that it isn't a reality. I can change it. And then also looking at what is it costing you to hold this belief? Because picture your life if you didn't hold that belief. What would your life look like if you believed you could do anything? And I always love the story of the bumblebee, because aerodynamically, a bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly. And yet it does. Why? Because nobody told it couldn't fly. So if you allow yourself to be restricted, you really are putting a ball and chain on your ankle and stopping yourself from moving forward. So start looking at all the reasons why you can do something rather than why you can't do something, and conquer those limiting beliefs. They are just beliefs, they're not reality. So I think one of the reasons we all battle with this issue of self-doubt is because we have a fear of failure. We're all so terrified of trying something and failing. And there's actually even an experiment that was done called the pipefish syndrome, where a predator was put in a tank with other little fish and it swam around quite happily eating the fish. But one day they erected a glass barrier in between the predator and the smaller fish, and the predator bumped his head quite a few times against the glass barrier till he stopped trying to get the fish. When the barrier was taken out, nothing changed. He carried on swimming around and ignoring the fact that he actually could eat the fish until he actually died. And that's what happens with us, is that we erect these false barriers and we really don't realize that we have potential to do things. And it's because we're so afraid of failure that we're too scared to try. So if we start to reframe failure and to say that failure is an opportunity to learn, because we learn so much more from our failures than we ever do from our successes, because we don't sit and ponder about our successes. Oh, what did we do right and how did we do that? Whereas when we fail, we bump our heads. We think, oh goodness, what happened there and why did that happen? And again, that's where something like optimism can really make a difference, because it gives us an opportunity to say, when faced with that situation again, how could I do it differently? How can I view it differently? So we really need to not be afraid of failure. And we need to embrace failure as an opportunity to learn and to keep trying, because one day that barrier might be gone and we might be able to swim around freely and catch whatever we want. So it's really about being open to that. and to embracing it. I mean, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb after 99 failures. Walt Disney was fired from the newspaper for lack of creativity. Look how successful they are. And there are numerous more examples that I can use. So really believe in yourself and don't be scared to try, because failure is actually helping you to achieve in the long run. Okay, so there are two aspects to that. One of the issues around that comes from the lack of optimism, because what happens in optimism is that it's how we view something. So an optimist will always believe that with energy or effort, they can change a situation, that they have the ability to change it, that they have the power to choose something. Whereas a pessimist becomes the victim and feels that life just happens to them. And in terms of doing that, they almost have this negative lens on themselves and on life. And then you start to combine that with the limiting belief scenario, where the little voices in our head are saying, no, you're not good enough, or you shouldn't have that. And we start to only see the downside. And if I feel that I don't deserve this, then it's almost like I don't work for it. It's kind of finding an excuse for why maybe we don't work for something, or we don't try for something. And then we start fulfilling our own philosophy and saying, oh, you see, I wasn't good enough to get it, and I shouldn't have got it, So when we find ourselves beating up on ourselves and saying these things to ourselves, we need to start recognizing that that is a pattern for us. And every time we go into this negative self-talk, we need to have what we call pattern interrupt statements. So every time I go, oh, well, I'm not good enough to get that, I'll never get that promotion because, I don't deserve it, the other person is better than me. Then we need to find, as we say, I can't, or I don't, or I shouldn't, we need to find something to change it and say, hold on, what am I doing here? And actually saying, I am worthy. I do deserve this. And if I put in the effort and the energy, it is mine to get or to have. And to actually start having more self-love. Because in order to love other people and to really realize our potential to live our purpose, we have to like ourselves. And we have to also turn that empathy inside and say, I do deserve this. I am good. I am lovable. But if I can't love myself, I make it hard for other people to love myself, to love, who I am. So I think it's really important that we have this good self-talk where we build ourselves up instead of pulling ourselves down. There are enough people out there that are going to pull us down all the time through jealousy or through whatever their agendas are. We don't need to be our own worst enemy. So start looking at ourselves and liking what we see and telling ourselves that we are good enough to have something.